The bodies of that family of three, which perished in a plane crash in Grand Bahama 2 Sundays ago, arrived in the capital this morning. Their bodies were brought on board a Flamingo Air flight. Lavard and Raydell Parks were both youth pastors at Bahamas Faith Ministries, and they, along with their 5-year-old son, Johannin, were traveling with Dr. Myles Munroe and others to a leadership conference on Grand Bahama when the plane they were on board crashed at the rear of the Grand Bahama shipyard.
The cause of that crash is still under investigation, and family members tell us the three will be funeralized next week Friday at BFM. The bodies of Dr. Munroe, his wife Ruth, Pastor Richard Pinder, and pilots Stanley Thurston and Farkan Cooper all arrived in the capital yesterday.
Well, the homegoing of Dr. Myles Munroe is just over 2 weeks away now, and perhaps until that time, mourners will be sharing their stories of how he touched their lives. Yesterday, Pastor Alfred Stewart, remembered Munroe's teachings and philosophies.
He quoted the Apostle Paul. At one point he said, I'm in a strait betwixt two, either to depart, which is far better, or to remain, which is better for you. And so we thank God for all that has transpired. We are inspired by his life, and I think in his death he will have a greater impact on all of us than the times that he spent here on the earth with us.
Pastor Delton Fernando recalls the impact Dr. Munroe had on him as a young student and the imprint he's left on the church.
Talked about dying empty. I returned as an engineer to work in PepsiCo, and I understand it even the more that we were put here with an expiration date, and before we die, the essence of who we are was to be given to service of others. He died how he taught. He died giving all of his life to ministry and to the people. Churches have been changed. There are so many churches that, through the lead of BFM, changed from church to ministries.
In other news tonight, Prime Minister the Right Honourable Perry Christie says in the face of enormous challenges, his government is performing well.
The Prime Minister was addressing his Progressive Liberal Party's National Prayer Breakfast at the Melia Resort on Sunday. The nation's leader gave a comprehensive overview of the government's work during the first half of the term and gave a preview of what's to come.
We are going to deliver the product.
Since the Christie administration took office in 2012, they have taken on some of the most controversial yet crucial issues in the face of reform. Prime Minister the Right Honourable Perry Christie calls it good governance and getting the job done.
We took on constitutional reform. We took on gaming reform. We took on financial services reform. We took on recreation reform. I mean, you wouldn't know this, but I mean, we passed a bill to do with parks and beaches and not just cleaning them, but being able to understand their value to our country and people. I think arguably this current legislative session is probably the most reform-driven in an independent Bahamas.
The Prime Minister acknowledges that while New Providence experiences its challenges, his government is busy transforming family islands like Bimini, Grand Bahama, Exuma, Eleuthera, San Salvador, Cat Island, Acklins, and Maguana, who have either seen a turnaround in their economies or are poised for revitalization through new projects on the table of cabinet. In 2015, hundreds of jobs are expected to become available in Bimini and other family islands, as well as thousands through Bahama in the first quarter.
So we're continuing to develop the concept of creating local economies in each of these islands so that people can have hope. We created over 8,000 jobs coming in. And we created a national training agency because we recognize going forward, every economy needs people who are trained and skilled.
Turning to crime, Mr. Christie stressed to parents that they must help their children live because too many of them are dying. Speaking of the creation of the National Security Council, which incorporates all agencies and law enforcement, the Prime Minister says he feels we are still too far behind, so he has asked the Attorney General to draft a new National Security Act.
That would allow the government of the Bahamas to constitute a body called a National Security Council that would be given the tooth of law but would be armed and equipped to take a hold of all of these issues that you hear people speaking about that have to do with the security of our country.
The government also behind Defense Force's $232 million Sandy Bottom project to purchase 9 boats to protect the country's territorial integrity. The Prime Minister did not publicly address other strategies underway to fight crime, but said no effort will be spared, including legislation to establish the National Intelligence Agency. Clint Watson, ZNS Network News.
Well, Prime Minister Christie is standing behind the immigration policy of the Bahamas. He said a recent meeting with Haitian pastors revealed their support in ensuring the policy is enforced and Haitians go to the embassy to get their passports. Mr. Christie pointed out that there are many Bahamians with other nationalities mixed in their blood, and the aim is to treat everyone fairly. Mr. Christie says he spoke with the Haitian president to inform him that the immigration policy stands. The Prime Minister also responded to the Florida lawmaker Daphne Campbell of Haitian descent, who publicly asked for people to boycott the Bahamas.
We must be relentless in protecting, but we must never lose sight of how we govern and how the world will look at us. So when this lady talks absolute nonsense about boycotting the Bahamas, absolute nonsense about boycotting the Bahamas, all she is doing is feeding resentment and response, not progressive. The same as when the Cubans say boycott, same thing.
The Free National Movement may not always agree with the government on some issues, but FNM leader Dr. Hubert Minnis says his party is fully backing government when it comes to the new immigration policy. This despite criticism from Amnesty International that in a statement Monday expressed concern that the immigration policy is allegedly leading to human rights violations. Amnesty International joins other voices such as Haitian-born Florida State Representative Daphne Campbell, who called for a boycott of the Bahamas. Minnis says he spoke with Prime Minister the Right Honorable Perry Christie and assured him that their Shadow Minister of Immigration, Hubert Chipman, will work with the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Immigration, Fred Mitchell, on this issue.
The FNM thinks it is important to publicly state that on this initiative, it is standing shoulder to shoulder with Prime Minister Christie and his government. Despite our policy and other political differences, we are one when it comes to protecting our sovereignty. The FNM believes that in the main, the actions being taken by the administration are right and will redound to the benefit of the Bahamas in the long term.
This portion of the news was brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
This is your Royal Fidelity Business News. I'm C.S. Scatterly. Christmas Jollification features some of the finest arts and crafts in the Bahamas, a variety of food and beverage, all taking place at the Bahamas National Trust Retreat on Village Road this weekend. The event will be open to the general public on Saturday and Sunday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Jollification will feature over 75 artisans who will have various items for sale. In other business news, scores of entrepreneurs along with existing business owners recently participated in the Entrepreneur Empowerment Workshop held by the Small Business Resource Center. The workshop was designed to provide information on how to start, manage, and grow a business effectively and efficiently, how to prepare and execute business plans, and explain the importance of the SME Act, the SME Development Agency, and value-added tax. And in international news, the Indonesian government has increased fuel prices by more than 30% in an attempt to save the economy more than $8 billion next year. The unpopular move sparked small protests and long queues at petrol stations in the capital, Jakarta. This has been your Royal Fidelity Business News. I'm C.S. Scatterly.
Junkanoo tickets will be available on Thursday with 10,000 seats to be sold. Chairman of the Junkanoo Committee of New Providence, Hilbert Ferguson, says ticket pricing, routes, and locations have not changed. Also on Thursday, for the first time, Junkanoo groups will be practicing on Bay Street on every Thursday until the annual Boxing Day parade. Ferguson says this is an opportunity to improve efficiency.
First, at 12:01 a.m. sharp, Junkanoo Tix will roll over all its online ticket sales for the BTC 2014-2015 Junkanoo parades. So all those persons wanting to purchase tickets online at 12:01 a.m. sharp, you will have access to junkanootix.com. And persons who need to have further inquiries on tickets should call 603-2849. On Thursday, the 20th of November, 7 p.m. sharp, all of the A Division groups will have the opportunity to rehearse in the arena they are going to compete in. This also gives our parade management team the opportunity to work our schedule of groups and how they would leave the gate so we can close up some of these gaps and speed up this parade. We want to cut at least an hour and a half to 2 hours off these parades. And we can do that by basically starting by rehearsing with the PMT and the police to make sure that we are in sync and all on the same page.
It's amazing how fast the years go by.
I know.
I believe it's Junkanoo time already.
He talks about practice, but there's one group that doesn't have a practice. They have performances leading up to a grand performance.
I think I know who
You
you're talking about.
You don't have to call it.
Transport and Aviation Minister Glenys Hannah Martin recently told the Exuma Business Outlook that a complete transformation of the national airport network will cost around $185 million. That figure is based on an audit by the international airport consulting firm Stantec. During the National Development Plan launch at the College of the Bahamas yesterday, Prime Minister the Right Honorable Perry Christie referenced that project.
We know that there are some that are more important than others, and so we have boldly began the process of drawing new plans for 4 or 5 of them, with the hope that sometime between now and the time when the drawings are finished, we will have a path to being able to begin in places like North Eleuthera to put in the remediation that is necessary, Exuma that is necessary, San Salvador, where flights come in direct from Paris and they only land on a runway, and they want guidance if it's raining for a control tower. If they're coming in, they need refueling capacity. So these are challenges that government face.